Hello, I'm Michael, and I've noticed because the weather's warming up a little bit out in the garden, there's some insects buzzing around. A few bees, even occasional butterflies, and of course birds in the trees, on the bird feeders, etc. I see these, I wonder, how can they fly? Now I know how they can fly, and I'm going to tell you a bit about how they can fly. Why do they fly? Well, they need to go places, find food, find shelter, find mates, places to live, get away from danger, all that kind of stuff. Back to the how, if I demonstrate it with this beautiful paper aeroplane, there are 4 main laws of aerodynamics. One of them is called thrust. So when you throw a paper aeroplane, you're giving it the thrust, that forward movement. The one that goes in opposite to that is called drag, and that's the air resistance. There's one that we all like to see when you get on an aeroplane, it takes off, it's the lift, that goes the upwards movement, and the opposite of that is our good old friend gravity. What a downer. And all those go together to form flight and allow true flight, which is flapping, taking off and landing. What we're doing is gliding flight with a paper aeroplane such as this. Got it on top of the cupboard. Yes. Now, I love paper aeroplanes, and I do love playing around with boomerangs as well, but I'm not going to throw one of those in here. I've got something in the middle, a boomer plane. Now, you may have seen one of these before, but if you haven't, you're going to have a chance to see one, and then I'll teach you how to make one. Very easy. This is a piece of scrap paper. I've just had it in my back pocket, so it's a little bit crumpled. Make sure it's all evened out. And then, here we go. The beautiful boomer plane, which will, if thrown correctly, always come back to you. Not that I'm suggesting that you'll have to be lazy, but it's quite satisfying. I once threw one of these off one of the tallest buildings in one of the largest cities of the world, and it was a beautiful thing to watch as it gently glided down to the streets below and didn't hurt anyone, I don't think. Whoa, hit the cupboard there. So there is the boomer plane. I think you'll agree it's perfectly wonderful. And if you adjust these back flaps, you can even, dropped it, do it in a small space such as the lift. Now we're going to go and make one. Okay. So here we have an A4 piece of paper. And to make your plane, you need to fold a triangle like so. Okay, that's your first move. Everything's repeated on the other side, it's symmetrical. So this line comes to this point. I normally do this with scrap paper because I like reusing stuff, but to make it obvious and easy for you, it's a fresh piece of copier paper, printer paper. Okay, now you turn it over, so that's a little raised bit here, and then you will take this piece, and this end and this corner will go across this line and meet these 2 places where the other ends of the lines were. Exactly. And when they meet that place, that is exactly halfway, and if it is exactly halfway, they will have gone through there. So you've got that line, and then the new line going the other way, very importantly. At which point, from underneath, you can do this satisfying pop, and that satisfying pop, you can see it in the shadows actually, quite good light. When you pull those together, you will form that shape. And that is the beginnings of the plane. And once you've got the beginnings of the plane, you need to then fold this flappy bit, triangular flap, up to the top, And of course the other side, everything's symmetrical. If you ever go to the airport, see an aeroplane that has one wing twice as long as the other, I would just turn around and not get on that plane. Okay, so then you've got the other sides done like that. And there's going to be a heavy weight, several layers of paper in this front nose section. Very important. So when you give it that thrust and you really throw it, it helps propel it forward, having a heavy nose. And I've folded that side down. And now across here, as evenly as possible, and you can see on the top whether you're doing it evenly or not. Hold the tops there and there, and then use your thumb and finger and score it. Score it is when you use your fingernails, like that. Should be quite good. I'm a couple of millimeters out, but that's not the end of the world. Next, so you got that. Next, we will make 1 centimeter fold here, about maybe 1.5, as straight as possible. This is probably one of the hardest bits of it. And then the same on the other side. We can do this by evening that to there. No, that's not the best way. Just pulling it down, that's it. That's it, and that's it. It will all make sense. There you go. And then you have, when you open that up on the bottom, you've got a nice little lip. Okay. That's not too bad. It's quite thin actually. Okay, so there's your plane. Next, this will fly like this, but to give it some more stability, you need another about 1 centimeter going that way. Side flap, and of course the same on the other side. Little centimeter side flap. There you go. And then you can cut these, or you can tear them about there, there, there and there. I tend to just approximate these. Hold up the flap and roughly there. If you want to measure it properly with a ruler, you're welcome to. And you can make these, I mean these are quite small, you can make them a bit bigger, you can experiment with them, and depending on how far up they are, it will go in different directions. So if one is down and one is up, it will go around one way and vice versa. If they're both fully up, it will make a much smaller circle. If they're both completely down, it will just fly straight, and if you put them backwards and underneath, I believe it will fly upside down from my experience. That, I believe, is more or less the finished boomer plane. So it should look like this. It's a bit, yeah, it's okay. They're not completely even, but again, you can adjust these. So I hope you enjoy this, and there is the finished boomer plane.